Hello, everybody. Welcome to our online discussion. My name is Eva Tasse, and I'm part of She Loves Data, which is a non-profit organization empowering women to switch their careers into tech. And I have the pleasure today to host this fantastic event in cooperation with our partner, TIBCO. And now we will be talking here with Michael O'Connell, which is a Chief Analytics Officer at TIBCO. Michael, welcome.
Hey, Eva, good to be here. How are you doing? You're live
I'm
in Sydney,
great.
right?
Yes,
You're in
yes,
Sydney.
live in
Okay, cool.
Sydney.
All right. Countdown to the F1 race in Melbourne.
Yeah, finally the Aussie weekend is here. We're so excited, everyone here. Yeah. All right. Look, this discussion, we actually would like to know a little bit more, and I'm so excited to find out what are actually the combination with the data analytics and Formula One, how you are actually helping the team to improve their performance, what are the different scenarios, and I have so many questions that I would like to ask you. So just bear with me. First of all, I'm like we right now while the race is going on, tell me, what are you actually most excited about the Melbourne Grand Prix?
The Melbourne Grand Prix, yeah. So yeah, it's a pretty cool event coming up here this weekend. It's the third race of the season after Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. So yeah, super exciting to be here in Australia. Kicking off, I guess, in just a few hours with the first practice session. And I think I'm most excited about this new car. We're kind of still trying to figure it out. It's been bouncing along the track a little bit, porpoising they call it, and we haven't been able to get the ride height, as close to the ground as we want. But it's been 2 weeks since Saudi Arabia, and I think there's going to be some things going on that could be, I'm certainly looking forward to seeing how the car gets set up and configured, and we have a bit of a hand in that. The other thing, I've got a few slides here that I was going to go through during the talk today, but this track at Melbourne, there's like 4 drag reduction zones, which is really a little crazy. I mean, normally, I think last year there was 2. And the thing about these DRS zones is that when you get into those zones, if you're 1 second, within 1 second of the car in front of you, you can open up your back wing of the car, and that reduces drag and boosts speed. And you have to be within 1 second of the car in front to use DRS, in the next zone. So, typically it's just 2 zones or 3 zones. Like last year, it was like, 2 or 3 zones. And so you detect, in this zone, and then you get to like try and overtake the car on this next straightaway, right? But this year there's like DRS zone 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm really a little confused. I'm not sure how it's going to work, because you have to get, you can open up the rear wing here, but you're going to have to, this detection point is where you get to see if you're within a second of the car in front. So I guess that's going to last for like, these whole 2 zones. And the same with this detection point, it's going to last for these whole 2 zones. But yeah, it's going to be pretty crazy, pretty interesting. I think there's going to be an exciting race and lots of potential overtakes, and that's always cool.
Yeah, look, I'm also sure that Melbourne is quite lucky that they don't have the same weather as we have here in New South Wales and Sydney. It's been raining, pouring the past 2 days. So yeah, Melbourne is pretty lucky with the weather for this weekend and the Formula One.
Yeah, hey, what's going on with the rain in Sydney? It seems like it's been raining there for not just 3 days, but like 3 months.
Yeah. I mean, like, one year we had the bushfires, then we had COVID. I mean, also with the rest of the world, that now we have the flooding. It's just, yeah, well, that's Australia. Crazy weather all the time.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that Melbourne track is dry, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Should be. You look, I checked the weather because I was really curious. So I checked the weather, what it is, and it actually seems that it is quite sunny in Melbourne. So
Awesome.
yeah, the guys are pretty lucky.
Yeah.
Tell me about the cars. So the Mercedes cars are one of the fastest one, in particular, 8 times Formula One champions. And that brings me actually to the question about the simulation software that you are using to gain amazing performance. So, and one of the features that's what I know that you have is the digital twin, which is kind of like a digital print of the car. So can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Yeah. Look, I just did a article with Nick Rohart from the team about that. It's here in AI News, and we talk about how the car, the digital twin for the car, how we use that to, set up the car, and basically it's a set of equations for each of the sub-assemblies of the car, and you can vary some of the parameters, in the equations, and that gives you a feel for what the car is going to do itself. So it's a software digital twin of the car that allows you to change the parameters and then understand, what is the effect on lap time for different combinations of the parameters. And if I'm not sharing, Charles, I want to be sharing. I think I'm sharing. And if you think about how that works, this is a quote from Mike Santoni of the BDG Group. If you've got 50 setup parameters on the car that can be changed, then you do simulations from on those parameters with different values, and you look at all the combinations of those, and every combination has potential to be a fast combination for that car, that day, that circuit, that driver. And they're really, we're really looking for the perfect combination. Some of these parameters might be related to the aerodynamics or the suspension, the car balance, the ride height, a bunch of different parameters that you can change and sort of figure out, in the virtual world, what might be the best parameter combinations for the Melbourne track in this case, with this particular set of straightaways and curves and DRS zones and all of that. And the weather comes into play as well. So if it's hot,
sorry that I interrupt you, but that's actually what I wanted to ask you, how you are when we were talking about the weather, how you are considering. So let's say, do you have the weather forecast, and then you are trying to simulate how the car is going to behave within the rainfall, the amount of rainfall, and can you also adjust then the car based on the conditions, possible conditions on the track?
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like the practice sessions are all about the same time of day, like 8 o'clock in the evening. What is this? This is pretty late. I mean, this is anyway. You want to you want to get the conditions of the qualifying and the practice. Maybe this is my time. I don't know what that time is. But you want to kind of get the weather conditions, in the practice session. You want to try and map that to the conditions of the race day and the race time. And you have to make adjustments for temperature. If you're doing practice sessions in the morning when it's kind of cold, and then you want to predict what the settings on the car might be when it's hot, you have to kind of take that into account, right? And the tires, you need them to be hot. I mean, you see guys coming out onto the track with the tires wrapped up in blankets and so on, because you want to get good grip on the tires, and you want to you got to have them get warmed up to do that. So, sometimes you'll see the drivers like swerving down the track to get some heat into the tires so that they get good grip. So yeah, I mean, the simulations are really crucial, to set up the car. But then, I always say set up and configuration, because you set up the car, you get it to the track, and that very first practice session, I always think of that as a good test of our Spotfire analytics software, because it's used in the car setup for the weekend. And so all those billions of simulations, we do the what if scenarios, or the engineers are doing what if scenarios about which combination of those parameters they think is going to be the best. So when you get to the track, if we get the fastest first lap, that's a big feather in our cap in terms of how the simulations worked. But that's not the end. In fact, that's just the start. When you then get to the track and you do some practice laps, the drivers come in and tell you how it felt. Did they have to oversteer, understeer in the corners? How it was handling, how the car was handling. Then you start adjusting the car setup parameters. And like I mentioned, there's about 50 of those parameters on the car that you can adjust. And, last season was so exciting because the last handful of races really were so neck and neck. And it was really super important. There was a lot of controversy, down in Sao Paulo in Brazil with the race there because, the Max was trying to play around with Lewis's rear wing. And, there was all kinds of controversy about, and that's actually, the rear wing is one of the setup parameters that is used to tweak to get more performance out of the car. So it's an important thing to, figure out what the car, not just the car setup, but the car configuration over the weekend as you learn more about the track, the conditions. I think I read somewhere where it's a new surface on the Melbourne track. That's a big deal because that means that the data from last year is not, particularly relevant to this year. You have to make adjustments if it's a brand new surface, right? So, yeah, it's a pretty scientific kind of, sport. And, it's like, a while ago, some years ago, we didn't have as much simulation input into the car setup and configuration, but now it's all about simulation.
Yeah. Look, when you were talking about the different setup of the car and the adjustments and so on, is it connected also to the driver? Let's say based on the data, are you giving also some instructions to the driver how he should behave in the different curve or in a different phase of the track?
Yeah, I mean, each driver's got their own, head engineer that they work closely with to, figure out their best strategy and their best way of, getting the most out of the car. So in that sense, there's sort of two digital twins, really, one for each car as you kind of take into account, the driver, control. And there's actually two types of simulations that we do back at the factory. One is on the equations that I was mentioning, tweaking the parameters of the equations. But then we have a thing called driver in loop simulator where the driver sits, in front of the computer and drives the car around these virtual tracks. And so, they would have been driving around Bahrain and Saudi Arabia virtually. And they would have been calibrating the models to the actual experience they had driving around those virtual tracks. And then they would have put in a few laps on Melbourne as well to, help with the setup. So it's both, just set of differential equations as well as validation, calibration with the driver actually driving a simulation around the virtual track too. Okay,
that's interesting. Look, we were talking about the simulation software that you are using. We all know probably how is it to go through all of because the bunch of data that you are actually getting, it's massive, and we all know how it is to go through all of the tables and compare it and so on. Can you tell us how the software that you are using actually help to spot the fire in the data?
No, absolutely. So Spotfire is the software that's used for, the simulations and the what if scenarios based on the results coming out of the differential equations when you, change the parameters. So there's lots of combinations of those. And Spotfire is really pretty good at doing what if scenarios. So as you kind of slide around and figure out, what combination of parameters is giving you the best lap time. So you've got various visualizations looking at lap time and looking at all the combinations of the parameters. And, Spotfire's got all those filters and sliders and, the way that Spotfire works, it's really, the way Spotfire was the pioneer of information visualization or, data viz, interactive data analysis, visual data analysis. And the mantra when it was invented was, overview first, zoom to the region of interest, and then get the details on demand. So there's 3-level analysis that is part of the Spotfire experience, and it really has come to, characterize all interactive visual analytics as that overview first, zoom and filter, details on demand, 3 levels. And so when you've got, these simulations, you want to get the overview and look at the lap times that you got from all the millions of simulations and see which are the best lap times. And then you want to understand, okay, what were the root cause of those best lap times? If I move around the sliders on the the different car configuration parameters, and I find the best combination or best combinations. It's really that interactive, visual exploratory data analysis that leads you to, the best combination of the parameters. So it's just like, what you do. I know you guys, She Loves Data, do some classes on how to, create interactive Spotfire, dashboards or interactive visual analytic applications. So all of those things you teach your folks about, set up the overall, dashboard, but then make it so you can drill down, drill up, drill sideways. A lot of software doesn't do that interactive stuff very well. A lot of other software for visual analytics is like reports. You just get a report on what, has happened. But, Spotfire, spot the fire in the data is like, where's the action in the data? Zoom into that, do some markings, filtering, drill up, drill down, drill sideways, find the fire in the data. So Spotfire is very good at doing that kind of interactive data discovery and what if scenarios to find the best combinations of the car parameters for the to set up the car for the weekend.
Yeah, as you mentioned, we are actually using Spotfire also for our certification program, where I think today, tomorrow, we have another section. It's a certified program where we are using TIBCO Spotfire. So this is also a little bit of also invitation for people who would like to join it. But if when we are talking about how, for example, the use case of Mercedes Formula One can be similar to other industries and how other companies can actually benefit out of it, can you give me some examples?
Oh yeah, no, digital twins are quite a popular thing at the moment. Having a software representation of a physical process. So yeah, I mean, anywhere where there's equipment, manufacturing facilities, or assets that are producing, oil and gas, or assets that are, fleets of trucks or whatever. I mean, most, assets these days have some kind of sensor data coming off of them that give you a feel for the health of, of the asset. So being able to, understand those sensor data and understand the condition or the health of the equipment, and then be able to reproduce that with some equations, so that you can then start to work in the virtual world and change parameters on the equations and see what's happens with the real equipment and vice versa. That allows you to get some really good control over it, and make sure that your, say, manufacturing equipment is running, on spec, in range. The idea of having, some multivariate models for getting the data, relating the sensor data to figure out what is the health of the asset. That allows you to, monitor and do process control on the asset, but it also allows you to identify anomalies that go outside the process control limits. And then it allows you to find out what's the root cause of those anomalies. And that allows you to, optimize the performance of the equipment, but also in manufacturing, optimize the output or the yield of the manufacturing process. So yeah, digital things are a really big deal at the moment in a lot of industries, especially where there's, equipment that you're getting sensor data from.
Yeah, look, it can brings to my mind a lot of different, well, it can be even like, of course, spare parts, car spare parts, how to have it, but maybe also kind of like a medical devices, everything where you need to actually have a good performance of the asset. And that's pretty cool, actually, I have to say. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's just like, look, if we come back to if we can come back to the Formula One and this event, I actually wanted to also ask you about something new that's been happening right now, and this is regarding the new Costa Cap Regulations.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
This is something. Yeah, can you tell us how you're gonna solve this?
Yeah, that's a big deal. And Charles, let's make sure you're sharing my screen. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. The regulations, right? So last year there was a cost cap that was put in place at around about $175 million per year per team. That's been reduced, I think, now to 145, which 175 is about the cost of a US NFL football team. And so, the idea is to level the playing field here so that the big guns like Mercedes and Red Bull and Ferrari, only are allowed to spend a certain amount of money, so that the other teams can keep up, right? So this, what we've done here is we've been using Spotfire, and Spotfire has this new feature, Spotfire Mods, where you can create your own visuals. So we created this thing called an icicle plot, which allows you to look at all the different sub-assemblies of the car, like the suspension, the chassis, the gearbox, the aerodynamic pieces, or so on. And inside each of those sub-assemblies, there's a whole bunch of parts that go into the manufacturing and design of the car. And so we look at the cost of all of those, and we look at the performance gain, and this allows you to build the car for a reasonable cost, and allows you to get transparency onto it. So we've been actually working with the CFO, the finance team, who I think for the first time feel like they've got visibility into the cost across the manufacturing and configuration of the car. And so this allows single source of truth between the engineering department and the finance department to understand where the what are the what if scenarios and the cost benefit for creating the different sub-assemblies and parts, and and recommending for different treatments on the parts and manufacturing. A lot of the parts are created through various printing methods, 3D printing methods, and there's a whole very innovative way that the car is manufactured and then kept up to date during the season. So this ability to understand what costs are being incurred and keep the trade-off between performance and cost has been pretty important. So yeah, we're pretty excited about that, and playing a role to help Mercedes build the best car for the most budget that you can trap it to.
Yeah, look, when you had there now kind of the heat map, I would say there's a like. So it's good that also actually all the department can see what are the different costs, because as we know, as it is in every company, each department wants to have the most money for themselves to be more productive and so on. So here you can actually see how you can actually invest and spend the money and how you get it. So this is something that also other companies use, right?
Yeah, no, it's good question. So I think the tree map, which is the icicle plot as a derivative of the tree map, was first made popular in money managers, people who are managing mutual funds and financial services, and they used it for portfolio analysis. So, what stocks do you want to have in a portfolio, and how much of each stock do you want to have to optimize the portfolio? And the tree map was used a lot in that area. In fact, there's a company, FinViz, I think it's called, that exclusively uses the tree map for creating different portfolios in the financial services sector. I think go to finviz.com and you'll see that. And in fact, Spotfire invented the guy who we worked with at the University of Maryland Human Computer Interaction Lab, Ben Schneiderman, is the inventor of the tree map. And it was first in Spotfire, and it was in Spotfire for a number of years. And Tableau would always resist putting it in there because they couldn't bear to give Spotfire credit for it. And finally, they put it in there. But yeah, it was kind of been an interesting history with the tree map being a Spotfire invention, or Ben Schneiderman invention, which is the University of Maryland Human Computer Interaction Lab where Spotfire was invented. Tableau was invented at Stanford, and so there was a bit of a rivalry there in the early days of data visualization software.
Yeah, that's and I can imagine that Tableau like facing that embarrassment. Okay, that they were not the first one who invented it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a Ben Schneiderman invention. So, but yeah, it's interesting how the it still is widely used for portfolio management in financial services, but a number of other uses as well.
Okay, let's we are getting to a little bit until the end of our discussion. Tell me also, I'm just the one private question. Have you ever thought that we will be actually working on a data analytics analysis with Mercedes AMG Formula One team? This is really cool, right? It's like a dream.
It is a bit of a dream come true. I think, when I first started working on it with the team, it was like a long time ago. I think it was like 8 years ago, something like that. And, in those days, the simulation and data wasn't as big of a deal as it is now. If you look at, when we started, with the digital twin work, back in, and I was talking to the technical director about this, Jeff Willis, back in 10 or so years ago, all of the design of the car was done through experience, and the data analysis was really mainly to investigate what had been produced by the engineering team. But now, the design of the car is totally done through simulation, and the real world only, intrudes through the validation of the models. And there's on our website, I think there's an interview with Jeff, Willis about that. This notion of optimal setup, the digital twin stuff, and the simulations. It's really fascinating how that's evolved. So when I first got involved, there wasn't as much data as there is now. I mean, we come away from each weekend now with about 2 terabytes of data, per weekend, and then poring over that to understand what the configuration, how it worked out, and then what to do for the next weekend. Those are some of the things that we're doing. So you can take a look at this website, and there's a lot of different write-ups on how it all works with the digital twins and the optimizing the car setup. But it is a pretty amazing car this year. I mean, as I mentioned, we've got to get through some of the things that, but it is a really fast car, and we've got to just figure out how to set it up. So hopefully this weekend we're gonna break the back of that.
Fingers crossed.
Well, Ferrari did made a great car on the off season. You got to give it to them. I mean, they're pretty awesome.
Yeah. I saw the races, the past races. Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, it's not gonna be easy.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see Ferrari back out there. They had a couple of years they haven't really done much, and so this new car of theirs, it's definitely a great car, and it's doing very well. We'll see how we can. We've had 2 weeks since Saudi Arabia, so we'll see if we've been able to make the adjustments to the setup. So yeah,
I'm excited. Do you have any last few words to the team?
Well, I mean, I just wish the team good luck. I know that they've been working hard, and it's a long flight from the UK to Melbourne. And if you check out this article that I did with Nick Rohart from the team last year, the guys, they'll put the data on their laptops, and they hang out at the airport together, and they're tweaking. I mean, it's never ending. The number of to figure out how to set up the car. When you get to the airport, there's other engineers there, and you start looking at the data with them. And that's all written up in this article here. But yeah, so I think my word to the team is like good luck with the car setup and the configuration this weekend. It's a crazy number of DRS zones, so I'm really looking forward to seeing the race, and hopefully it's going to be exciting, lots of overtakes, and I'm Sundays here. I'm living in the US. And Sundays are getting up and watching F1 race day. So I wish all of our friends in Melbourne all the very best. And Eva, let's stay in touch. I'm excited to get more women trained up on visual analytics and Spotfire. I went to a race in Austin last year, and where I was sitting. The women who won the women race, there's a whole women's race at each track too, right? And all the winning drivers, and the presentation ceremony was literally right next to me. So I got to see all the women drivers and all that. So yeah, I think it's great what you're doing with She Loves Data, and you know, encouraging science, technology, engineering, math, you know, disciplines. I love diversity that we have across our data science teams at TIBCO and in general across TIBCO. You know, when you've got more diversity of thought, more creativity, you know, you get faster, you know, get further faster. So hats off to you and the She Loves Data organization for carrying the you know, the flag on STEM and getting more diversity into data science and analytics.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's great to see so many like excited women and who wants to switch their career into tech. We really have the community quite experienced, and we really have women come joining our workshops and trying to learn new things because they want to improve, they want to keep up with the trends, what is happening right now on the market. So it's really amazing. It's really amazing, and we love it. And we are also grateful for partners as we have, like for example, TIBCO, who are helping us to actually create and improve also our programs that we are offering the community basically for free, because we want to help, we want to give back. And this is something the same what all of our volunteers what we are doing. We want to give back to the women because they deserve it. So thank you also to you, TIBCO, our partner. And yeah, thank you, Michael, so much for this discussion. It was so excited. I think we could spend here like at least 2 hours discussing about this because I have so many questions. So I hope that this is not the last time that we are having this kind of a discussion, and I'm pretty sure that we will be back soon again on the screen.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think as we start to get together, you know, live instead of just through Zoom, you know, when we do trade shows in Australia, we've got a car down there that you can come and get in the car. You can drive the car around this virtual track, and we're keeping track of your data, and we're doing some of our modeling to predict your lap time, and you know, keeping the leaderboard and all of that. So you know, we haven't been able to get together for conferences or live events the last couple of years, but I hope to come down to Australia, you know, later in the year for some conferences, and hopefully get to see some folks and have some folks do some simulations of them of their own, you know, driving around. So hopefully I can get to meet you then, Eva, and we can do an event or something together.
Yes, yes, I'm in, definitely. Okay, thank you so much. Thanks everyone. Thanks the audience. Good luck again for the weekend. We will be watching closely, and see you soon. Have a great day.
Yeah.